Good morning. We made it. It is Friday. Thank goodness. Friday, August the 27th. This is Wake Up with Ray G, presented by Bets TV. We are happy you all joined us today. This is going to be a Flash Friday episode. We're going to get you in and out, 30 minutes. We got some stuff. Jordan's got to do some stuff. I got to get to work and do some stuff. But we're excited. We got a full slate of the final preseason matchups. We're going to dive right into those. Welcome for everybody in the chat. Keep the comments popping. Jay, before we get started, I don't care how much time we have. I always have to check on you, man. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm great, man. I'm happy. You know, it's Friday, but we got to get to the show, right? This is going to be a quick show. We got to let the people know what's going on this weekend, and I'm super excited. So let's just dive right into it real quick.
Let's get into it, baby.
Wake up. This is the morning run.
Run, Forrest, run!
Up. All right, so we got college football this Saturday. I know Matt Bruning is in the house. He's so excited about that. I'm ready for college to come back, but I mean, the big dogs really don't start playing until next week. But we got NFL preseason. We covered 6 games yesterday. We left off, I believe, with Baltimore, Washington. And the first one that I want to touch on, you know, and we're hitting the highlights, what we really need to be paying attention to for your team prospectus and outlook, and then for fantasy, for betting purposes, Chicago Bears and Tennessee Titans. The Titans, I saw Ryan Tannehill was placed in some COVID protocols. And then there's some news that Justin Fields, he's taking reps with the starters, right? Like he's starting the game for Chicago. Is that right, Jay?
Yeah, he's expected to start for this game against the Titans. We don't know who we're going to see from the Titans. Probably nobody. Tannehill on COVID list, and even Mike Vrabel as well. So he may not even be on the sidelines. So even the head coach not being there, I'm really not expecting much. But it's great to see Fields, you know, finally, hopefully with the starters. But I was diving so hard to try and find out, like, is A-Rob going to play? Is Mooney going to play? But it's just he's going to start, but hopefully it's actually with the starters, not like the way Dwayne Haskins is starting this week.
Well, I was listening to a lot of people talk about that, and I guess a lot of NFL teams are treating those inter-squad practices against other teams as sort of their preseason game, and it sort of makes sense, right? Because it's a more controlled environment. You can't tackle through the whistle. It's live, but not full live. You still can't hit the quarterback. You can't blast wide receivers going across the middle. So it gives the coaches like legitimate, I guess, game feel without the risk of injury. So I heard some people saying a lot of teams are taking the approach that those inter-team practices are more better for evaluation than the actual preseason games, and it protects the players. So Justin Fields, what do you think he needs to do in order for Matt Nagy to name him the starter, or do you just think it's a foregone conclusion that Andy Dalton is going to start the season?
I really don't think there's much he could do. Like, he could go out there and throw up 300 yards and 100 on the ground. I still don't think he'd be the starter. So it's really just kind of how it comes down to it. We keep saying that Justin Fields needs to be playing out there, but I am fine with him sitting week 1. The Rams are going to be very difficult it's technically the opening game at SoFi, right? With the fans and everything. So it'll be a crazy atmosphere, and I'd rather Fields not play in that game. But get him in there for week 2 and beyond. But I'm fine with Andy Dalton starting week 1.
But that, to me, just when you hear that, like, oh, we're going to start the veteran for week, what sense does that make? Like, I hear what you're saying about the Rams, but if you're going to start the guy, if you're going to start Dalton, if you're going to start Garoppolo, then just start him, right? Start him because what if Dalton goes out here week 1 versus the Rams, lights him up, and so then you pull Dalton in? I mean, you either start him.
You don't. You give him a chance, right? Like, the problem is with San Francisco is that they're playing the Lions. Like, there is no reason to play Jimmy G out there. They could win with anybody. Ben DiNucci could be quarterback. They'd still win that game. But I think against the Rams, you know, there is still the important factor of protecting your quarterback psyche. These rookie quarterbacks, they do have to go through a lot already. I get your throw them into the fire kind of approach, but I'm
No,
fine with it if we're just
it's
letting
not.
the Rams play.
To me, just thinking through that situation, to me, it makes no sense. If you're going to start Jimmy Garoppolo, if you're going to start Cam Newton, if you're going to start Andy Dalton, then start them. Like, don't be like they're going to start week 1 and then week 2 we're going to play the rookie. Like, you start them until they shit the bed and then they give you a reason to pull them, whether that be 2 games, 6 games, 10, like whatever it is. To me, it's weird. Either you start the kids, you let them play, you let them go through their growing pains, or you don't, and then you roll with the guy that you wanted to start, or you name the starter until otherwise, proven otherwise. But outside of Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, to see how he continues to perform, he's looked like a solid, capable backup. He's looked better than Damian Williams, I'll tell you that. So maybe Khalil Herbert can carve out a role for himself later on. We got Arizona and New Orleans and these are all Saturday matchups we're touching on right now. Arizona and New Orleans, so the Cardinals and the Saints. Interested to see who starts at quarterback, but honestly, I think it's Jameis Winston. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Saints. Wonder how much time Marquez Callaway, who looks to go into the season as the wide receiver 1 for the Saints. They've had some trouble at tight end, so I want to see if Juwan Johnson gets a little bit of burn. Highly doubt we see Alvin Kamara. So it's about Tony Jones. Can Tony Jones usurp Latavius Murray in that backfield? And I know for me, I've picked up Tony Jones across all dynasty leagues. Like, I want him because, we've seen for the past 3 years, they do not want to give Alvin Kamara 300-plus carries out of the backfield. So somebody is going to have to take that work, and it's valuable work, especially if you've got the gunslinger Jameis Winston at the helm throwing the ball. So that's kind of what I'm paying attention to from the New Orleans side. Arizona, honestly, for me, it's the whole damn offense because they haven't looked good this preseason. Kyler Murray hasn't looked good, barely played. Nuke's probably not going to play, but we'll probably see Chase Edmonds, a splattering of James Conner, some Eno Benjamin, and then, of course, Rondale Moore from the Cardinals. Continue to see his involvement in that offense, his use. Rondale sitting?
Rondale and Kyler are both sitting. Yeah, it's already been confirmed they're both going to sit. So there's very little to see from this game unless you want to see Chase Edmonds
Thank you
play.
for stopping me. Eno Benjamin at this point. That's it. Rondale not playing.
Yeah, because they're all with the tropical storm in New Orleans, right? Tropical storm Ida may actually postpone, delay, just cancel the game.
Oh, word. Wow.
Yeah, so there is possibilities of that as well. But I was looking for the Saints stuff, and there wasn't a whole lot from them. If, like you said, if they do play, Jameis Winston will probably start. He's already been named the starter, but I'm not expecting a whole lot. And I don't think Tre'Quan Smith is expected to play either.
Dude,
injury.
I'm done with Tre'Quan Smith. We do this every year in the fantasy community. Tre'Quan, it's his season, and then he gets passed up by Marquez Callaway. It's going to be Tre'Quan, and then it's some Emmanuel saying, I'm done with Tre'Quan Smith. I don't think he's going to be a thing for us. Betting world, fantasy world, done with Tre'Quan Smith. I'm on to Marquez Callaway, Juwan Johnson, whoever hell else they have catching passes. So I guess there's nothing. Small storyline in Arizona, Eno Benjamin. How does Eno Benjamin look? Because I do think he factors into that offense at some point in time this season. I think at some point, and it's the running back position, super fragile, one tweak of an ankle, one hit to the ribs, and you've lost your running back. And then by the end of the season, we're wondering, where did this guy come from that's taking carries, and we're spending all our fab trying to pick up said running back. So Eno Benjamin, get Eno Benjamin stashed away now. Anything out of Tampa Bay, Houston? Is Tampa
Arian said that the starters are going to play for the first half, more than likely. He said they're going to play a lot. And so that's what's interesting is they kind of played week 1. They didn't really play week 2, but this week he said they're going to get a lot of action. And that's one of the reasons, actually, I was looking at the number. It's 4.5 for the Bucs, and they're playing Houston. So I don't see why they couldn't put up 30 points in the first half if Brady plays, 5-6 series. They score almost every time. If you do want to make a bet, it was one of the ones I was looking at that I was considering, because the number does seem pretty light for any Tampa Bay versus Houston matchup. That was a regular season. That would be probably a 15 to 18 point spread, more than likely.
So speaking of Tampa Bay, I put in a couple of tickets yesterday, a couple of bets, putting my money where my mouth is. And I took Tom Brady plus 1,400, 14-1 to win the 2021 NFL MVP. I put half a unit on that bet. And honestly, of the 6 bets that I placed yesterday, that's the one that I feel the most confident in. I think Brady's going to have a monster year. They return all their starters on offense. You add Gio Bernard. You draft a speedster in Jalen Darden. I don't know how the defensive end outside linebacker, Joe Tyron, the guy out of, I can't think of the college he came from, but I don't know how they allowed the Bucs to get him because he's looked like a terror in the preseason. But Tom Brady, I mean, the weapons are there, man. I mean, if I had to ask you right now who leads that team in receptions, is it AB? Is it Godwin? It's one of those two, right? It's AB or Godwin, right, for receptions?
Yeah, I'd probably say Godwin. Say Godwin. Because we look at the futures, and he also has the highest yardage total as well.
I think AB is going to ball this year. I think AB is going to ball this year. I think AB is going to do his thing with Tom. They've always had this weird connection, like even his first game with New England. You know what I mean? I think Brady's going to – it's going to be interesting to see how those guys are deployed, but – Bruce Arians said the starters are playing, so I want to see how the starters look. I want to see how my NFL MVP pick looks from Tampa Bay. So Houston side of the ball.
Maybe we see the running back situation play out. Like, other than that,
dude, David Johnson, man. Literally just a couple of years ago, he was like the RB1, seasonal,
V1.
dynasty. The next closest thing to 1,000, and now I read a report that he's like relegated to third down duties, and hasn't even looked good doing that. Just brutal, man. Brutal. Croc has a question, man. Does Mike Evans go over 1,000 K? I mean, he's done it, 5 straight seasons? 6 straight seasons to start his career? 7? I think it's like him and Randy. 7, yeah. I think he's like number 1 in NFL history for.
Whether like he broke Randy's record or they're tied now, but it's right around there. It's either he broke it this year or they tied. I think he'll go over again.
So do I.
1,000 is pretty light for him.
Well, and that's why I asked the question, who leads the team in receptions? Because in my opinion, the yardage leader is still going to be Mike Evans. I still think Tom wants to throw it down. That's what I think. I think Mike is going to lead the team in receiving yards, Chris Godwin in receptions, AB is going to perform better than expected, but that's just me just talking. I don't know, but I think Mike does it again, man. I think Mike does it again, and we actually got Mike Evans 2.0 coming into the NFL next year. Big Drake London out of USC, so I'm excited about that. But I'm happy the Tampa Bay starters are going to play, so that'll be worth tuning into. Los Angeles Rams versus Denver Broncos. Is Sony going to play? I don't know.
I honestly, that's one thing I don't have in the notes that I was kind of thinking about. Maybe he would just get some reps because he needs them, right, in that offense. Maybe. I don't know. And then you saw the report that Sean McVay said that, what is it? Hendo's going to have a huge role or a heavy workload
I'm not
or something.
buying any of that.
Yeah. Not buying any of that garbage. There's no way.
You people are like legit like taking that as gospel. Like, he said it. Sean McVay said it. He's going to be the guy. Henderson. Sean McVay has told us a bunch of BS for the past 2 years, and then we see Malcolm Brown trot it out there. We see him spend a second-round pick on Cam Akers. Then we see him trade for Sony Michel, but Henderson is the guy, and he's in for a huge workload. Like, I'm not buying it, man. I think the person that's in for a huge workload is Matt Stafford and those receivers. Like, I think those are the individuals who are going to be in for a huge workload. Like, it wouldn't shock me if the Rams led the league in pass attempts this year, just out of sheer necessity that they can't run the ball as effectively as they once could with Cam Akers. So I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying anything that Sean McVay's laying down. The Wonder Kid is a liar. Denver Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater is the starter. Drew Lock is the backup. Drew Lock, dope quote about his role as the backup. Like, just tons of respect for him. I hope he figures it out. And I do think there's a chance that Drew Lock gets on the field. And more so than anything, just Teddy Bridgewater. Round of applause for this young man and what he's been able to, I mean, he's one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the world. And he came off of that devastating leg injury to get his bag, to get a contract, had multiple opportunities to start for NFL franchises. And he's the starter for the Denver Broncos. And, we haven't really talked about that because we haven't touched on the AFC West. But that's good stuff for Jerry Jeudy, right? We talked about that a little bit. Good for Jerry Jeudy. Good for Noah Fant. I know a lot of people are saying stock down for Cortland Sutton, but I think Sutton, once he gets his legs under him, he's going to be fine, right? That's all I really have from this game.
He might play. He might play in that game. That's kind of the big thing. Sutton. He said he's excited to kind of get back into game action, so he may actually get some reps. And so that's why I think they may see Teddy in the game a little bit, and then obviously Locke. But yeah, Denver heavily favored with the Rams probably resting everybody again like they always do. That's just the Sean McVay way.
All right, so let's get into the Chargers and Seahawks. So we've got a little AFC West versus NFC West. No Justin Herbert, right? They've already said he's not playing this preseason. No Austin Eckler, no Derwin James, probably no Joey Bosa, no Keenan Allen.
Nobody.
All those guys are out. What about Seattle, man? Has Russ played at all? Has Carson?
Russ hasn't played. I saw a random report from like a Seahawks website saying that they think he might play. Not going to put a whole lot of stock into that. But the other guy that they did say that is probably going to play is Dwayne Eskridge, right? We haven't seen any Dwayne Eskridge because he's been dealing with an injury. So we may see him a little bit. This is kind of the Seahawks futures here, 12-4 last season, 25-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 280, to win the division, and over under 10 wins. I'm really intrigued by this line, honestly. I think that the over is a possibility, but it's just, unless the problem is, it's how bad is Arizona going to be? And we think they're going to be fine. Are they going to hit their over? Probably not. But this is where it's tough because you see San Fran, you see the Rams, you see Seattle. They're all projected around that 10-win mark. And with that extra game, does it make sense to get them all to that 10-win mark? I think it's doable for the Seahawks. I think they're going to be a really good team. I think bringing in the Rams, I believe, running game coordinator from last season to be their new OC is going to make a big difference. Hopefully a bit of a change in philosophy. They want to pass the ball more, or at least that's what they keep saying. But Chris Carson is back. He's healthy. And I do expect the Seahawks to do really well this season.
Man,
I think they can hit that 11-win mark, but it's going to be tough in this division at the end of the day. It's going to be real tough.
I didn't realize Seattle was that damn good last year. I guess last year's just a blur for a lot of people, but they were 12-4, huh? Wow. 10 wins. I mean, literally everybody in this division, and we'll get to the 49ers here in a second, but they're all like 9 wins, 10 wins. They're all literally right there. Like, who's going to win the most in the division? I always start with who's got the best quarterback, and the best quarterback in the division is Russell Wilson. The best receiver in the division, who is that? Is it DK? Is it Nuke? I think they're right there, right? DK and Nuke.
Yeah.
And then the running back, Chris Carson. I'd take Chris Carson over the San Francisco running backs. I'd take him over the Rams running backs. I'd take him over who else is in that division? Arizona.
Chase and Connor.
Yeah,
and
Chase
else,
and Connor. I mean, 10 is. I wish the total was at 9.5. I would like 9.5 a little bit more. But let's take a look at Russell Wilson. Let's take a look at Russ. So Russ plus 2,000 for NFL MVP, which the first 6 games of last season, it seemed like he was a lock for that award, right? He was just Russ cook. Passing yards, 42.50.5, minus 111 price on that. 32.5 touchdowns for Russ, minus 111 pricing on that as well. So exactly the same. I'm not, I wish I got Tom Brady plus 2,000. I'd prefer that. But I don't know. We've got to see. Are they going to let Russ cook, right? Are they going to let him air it out to Tyler Lockett, to DK Metcalf? They added more speed to that team with Gerald Everett and Dwayne Eskridge this past offseason. I mean, he should, right? I
like the touchdown number a lot.
I like
more
the
than
touchdown
yards.
number as well.
The touchdown number he's come very close to, even with these limited, passing attempts. Where the yards, some years he's hit it, some years he hasn't. So I think I like touchdown number more. I think it's more attainable for him. But like to your point, if they do let Russ cook, he could easily hit 4,400, 4,500 this season, kind of without even skipping a beat, really, because he's got the talent. They just haven't given him that opportunity. Now you're talking about DK Metcalf. One of the reports I do love to hear is how much he's working with Russell Wilson again this offseason, right? Getting better and better. And I really like this prop plus 1,400 to lead the league in receiving yards. We know that he has the ability to do that. It really just comes down to is how much volume are they going to give him? You see the season number, 1,275.5 yards and 9 touchdowns. All 3 of those numbers DK could easily hit if he saw 160 targets. But it just comes down to is the Rams' philosophy. I believe he had 11 touchdowns last year. He had 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And then Lockett was kind of around the same, and I believe he didn't quite hit that number for the yards, or he just went over it. It was somewhere around that number though. But I do like him. If you want a long shot to just lead the league, it could be a great bet at 14-1 for him to lead the league in receiving. I honestly think it just comes down to the targets. You saw Stephon Diggs; he was like at 170 last year. You just need to chase that volume, and if Russ really does cook, DK is easy on the over.
Yeah, I like the over on both DK numbers. I think he's a 1,300-yard receiver this season, and I like him for more than 9 touchdowns. So, not sure how much risk I'd be willing to allocate towards that bet, but I do like the over numbers, and if you're bullish on DK, then I think those are good bets. Lockett, Tyler Lockett, his over-under receiving yards total is 975.5. We have him projected for 986. What are your thoughts on Tyler Lockett?
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Lockett. Like he's kind of underrated in a lot of ways, but you see he kind of continually shows up in those big games. He has 2 or 3 big games a year that really inflate some of his numbers. And I think with this extra game, he's going to easily go over 1,000 yards. I see we're projecting him for only 986, but I personally see a little bit differently. I think he could see upwards of 140 to 150 targets if they allocate a bit more his way. DK as well going to get a little bit more volume, and they just kind of funnel it to those 2 guys. I think I like the over 1,000 pretty easily for Tyler Lockett.
I mean, he's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like he's just always just sort of there, right? Always doing his thing. And one player that we didn't do a graphic for is Chris Carson, but his regular season rushing yards total over under 900 for Chris Carson.
I'm iffy on it, Like I don't really love him as a rusher. I just love.
You just told me to draft him in multiple drafts, and now you're telling me he can't even hit 900 yards.
Because I think he's great in the passing game too. Jeez, but 900 rushing yards is kind of like he could hit it. But I also think he's got an extremely high touchdown ceiling. So
did you see that Rashad Penny's on the bubble? That they're saying he could be cut. Yeah.
Oh no.
Like 900 yards. Like
I'm looking at this. That doesn't matter though. He's not going to take his work.
Well, let me just say this. I'm seeing anywhere from 900 to 1,000. That's what we have. DraftKings has them over under 1,000.5. I see FanDuel at 975. Points bets under over 900. Like, I think he's over, man. You can get plus pricing on DraftKings at plus 100. I mean, that's right there. So just, I mean, I like the over.
Number. I mean, he's gone over it twice. He's gone to 1,100, 1,200 in his career, so it's definitely an easy hit. It's just the health bet, right? Like, not to say that he's injury prone. Some people do give him that label, but it's kind of a health bet for Carson, and I do think he could get more involved in the receiving game as well. Like, I do think that's an area that he's a little bit underrated.
I like Carson, man, and I'm really trying to hold it together because you told me to draft him multiple times over the past couple of days, and then we get on here, and you're concerned that he won't even get to 900 yards. So I'm not happy. So let's move on to the next game. Jacksonville at Dallas. Is Dak going to play? I don't know what. I'm down here. I have no clue.
I don't think so.
He's not, you don't even think they'll throw him out there versus the Jags just to get a little taste of action?
Nah, man. What's this? Nah, I just don't think it's good business for them, Like,
you know who Dallas opens up with, right? Chill. Do you know who Dallas opens up with this? On Thursday.
Yeah, they're on the road too, right?
I would like to see him. I would like to see him on the field. I would like to see Dak though. They said he's back, no restrictions. The shoulder, labrum, lat, whatever was bothering him is fine. There's no issues. I just want to see him in the game. Like I would like to, because think about it. If he doesn't play until week 1, that means he's gone from week 5 of last season up until Tampa Bay against the defending Super Bowl champs with no live game action, with not being hit since he suffered that injury. Like, he has not been hit since he suffered that leg injury versus the Giants. It's a hell of a way to open up the season, man. I would like to see him. Don't know what we're going to see. We know we're not going to see Travis Etienne from Jacksonville. Urban Meyer, in true Urban fashion, will probably rest all the starters, and we won't see any T-Law. He just got to save him for the season, but we need to see Jacksonville's offense, right? Like that's more than Dak. We need to see what Jacksonville's going to do because for a lot of us, seasonal leagues. I mean, we're trying to figure out, like, do we need to draft these guys? Do we draft James Robinson? What do we do with Carlos Hyde? Where are we at with Visca, DJ Chark? I don't know if he's practicing, playing, practicing. I don't know what he's doing. But I know that it does not look good right now. So we need to see Jacksonville. And you better believe Micah Parsons is going to be amped up and ready to get after that Jacksonville's offense, regardless if it's preseason or not. Miami and Cincinnati. We saw yesterday, I sent you the message, Tua will not play, and maybe that speaks to why he was throwing the ball so damn much the last game and in there. I'll tell you what's been impressive, man. Tua's connection to Mike Gesicki. I think Mike Gesicki's in for a big season. I mean, he has been targeting the big athletic tight end early and often. Really like that. Want to see what's the running back rotation going to look like this week. Watch Savon Ahmed lead the team in rush attempts and yards. Gaskin last, right? and then Gerald Dokes, the Dokes guy, is going to be second on the team. We're not going to know what Brian Flores is doing, but no Tua, so that's a bummer. But on the Cincinnati side, after a not so stellar game, all reports out of Cincinnati is Jamar Chase has been awesome in practice, has looked phenomenal, and Joe Burrow is going to play a couple of snaps. So maybe we get to see a little bit of that Bayou magic between Burrow and Chase right before the regular season. That's the storyline for me in this one. No Tua, but it would have been cool to see Tua versus Burrow, the number one, number two quarterbacks. But we get to see Burrow and Chase for a little bit. How do you feel about that?
I'm excited, man. Could you imagine if they connected for a deep ball, just like the old days, Deep ball down the sideline, Chase catches it like 40, 50 yards down the field. Man, everyone would go crazy.
But people would lose their mind.
That's the kind of confidence builder that I think that Chase needs. And having Burrow on the field should give him a lot of comfort that he knows exactly how the ball's going to go. Burrow knows where he's going to be, and I'm interested to kind of see how that connection looks really early on because they do have that history, obviously.
All right, and then we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco, Las Vegas from the Las Vegas side. Again, we won't know until they show up unless it's been announced. I don't know who's playing for the Raiders offensively. Honestly, I kind of don't really care.
I haven't seen much anything. I don't care.
I don't really care. I mean, we know it's going to be Darren Waller. We know Josh Jacobs is going to do his thing. And then I saw some pretty cool clips of Henry Ruggs looking good. So maybe we get to see a little more juice out of him this season. But it's the San Francisco side, baby. Kyle Shanahan is getting on my last nerve. I mean, just
the guru.
The guru, right? I didn't realize San Francisco was so damn bad last year, 6-10. But I mean, they had a lot of injuries. Quarterback play was not there. They didn't have that. So 6-10 last season. But this year, plus 1,400 odds to win the Super Bowl, plus 200 to win the division. Over under 10.5 wins. They are they're favored to win the West. If they're favored to win the West, right?
I believe so, yeah. It's so close between all the teams. I think the Rams may have a similar number, but it's like every team other than Arizona is either 200 to 300 on all the books. I
mean, what do you think? Nick Bosa's back. They've got one of the best linebackers.
If Trey Lance is looking good, it's tough to bet against them. Like, it really is, because that dude is going to be really good. It's just, can he be good early enough that they can, hit this number? Because Jimmy is not the answer. He's never going to be.
It's just crazy. I heard something that Jimmy Garoppolo is like, it's either 18-4 as a starter or 28-4 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's something like that. Like, he hadn't lost a lot of games. And the issue with Jimmy Garoppolo is turnovers. Like, the dude he can't get out of his own way. He's just snake bitten, whether it's his fault or a tip pass or, a drop ball that gets picked off. It just, whatever happens, whatever can go wrong seems like it does go wrong. But, Kittle was hurt. Debo was in and out of the lineup. I think this team is going to be really good. I mean, offensively, defensively, they're going to have a nice running back rotation with – I saw Mostert was hurt yesterday, but when he's back, what he can do. Trey Sermon. I think, maybe even a little Elijah Mitchell. I don't know how he's looked in training camp, but 10.5, man. Do you like San Francisco right now, over Seattle or over the Rams? Because I don't know if I do, man.
I honestly think they should be the favorites. I think that defense is going to get right. I think they're bringing a lot of guys back on offense and on defense, right? Like, second year for Ayuk, Debo coming back, Kittle coming back. I think that running back rotation should be a little bit stronger. I was looking for numbers for Sermon, couldn't find them.
Yeah.
This number, though, for Ayuk at 825, I thought was super light, especially if Lance gets in the game early. I think that could boost the passing game a little bit, especially that deep passing game where I think Ayuk could be really effective. It's not really the Shanahan way, but if you have Trey Lance's arm, you're going to probably take advantage of that. George Kittle coming back. Interesting number here, 20-1 on comeback player of the year. I know we talked about how it's a quarterback-driven kind of award, and I don't think he suffered any major injuries, but it was just interesting. I think that George has that kind of personality and can, sell that storyline to be the comeback player of the year if somehow he broke a bunch of tight end records at tight end this year. It was just an interesting number. 10-25 for his receiving yards, 5.5 for his touchdowns. I like the touchdown number a little bit more than the receiving yards, but I think he could easily go over on both of them.
It's crazy to me how good George Kittle's been in his NFL career and how few touchdowns he scored. It's kind of crazy, right, to see that.
Yeah.
I do think he leads his team in receiving yards. I like Ayuk's number as well. I think Ayuk takes a big step forward, and I think his line was 825. I could see him going for close to 1,000 yards, if not over. I'm very bullish on Brandon Ayuk. Love the kid. Love his yak ability. And, again, I love that number for George Kittle. So we've got 2 games left to talk about. Atlanta, Cleveland. I don't know.
Nothing from Atlanta, man. Nothing.
They're not.
Baker's going to start, though, right? Baker, Chubb, Myles Garrett, all on the depth chart, so they're going to play.
Are they going to play?
More than likely, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
they were on the depth chart. There was a report that Baker's probably going to play.
Yes,
So we may see quite a bit of the Browns. But the Falcons probably nothing.
They're
again.
too good.
Arthur Smith just.
Yeah,
he doesn't care about preseason. He doesn't want to see Matt
his team
Ryan
is
play.
built for the regular season.
But it is important to note that they did lose A.J. McCarron last week, I believe, for the whole season. So it's important for them to now stay healthy. They lost their backup quarterback, so I don't think they take any more risks this late.
I've been a question in the chat. Pitts. I've been talking about Pitts for 3 weeks now, and he hadn't. I don't even know if he's been on the field. To be honest with you, they probably don't even want to risk it. At this point, he hasn't played. We'll see him week 1. That's it. This is the 7 p.m. game on Sunday. Yeah. Thank goodness. That means I can do something else than watch this dreadful, abysmal game. I will be doing something else. I'll go work out at 7 o'clock on Sunday. But the last game we got to talk about, and Matt Bruning said they are all starting for the Browns. All right, so a little more intrigue. We get to see all the guys. We get to see Chubb. All of that stuff. So thank you, Bruning. I'm happy about that. It makes the Sunday night matchup a little more palatable. I'll probably just ride the bike and watch it on mute because all I really care about is seeing. Dude, Cleveland, I forgot Cleveland drafted Greg Newsome, the corner out of Northwestern in the first round. Denzel Ward, Newsome, Owusu-Koramoah, Garrett, that dude. I don't know how Delpit's look. Cleveland's going to be legit on defense, man. They have a chance.
Kill the Falcons.
They're going to kill a lot of teams, period. And hence the reason why I'm more bullish on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt because I don't think they're going to have to air it out all day. I don't think they're going to ask Baker to throw the ball 40 times a game. They just paid Nick Chubb. They brought Kareem Hunt, but I think they're just going to pound people to death, man. And I think it's going to be good. And their offense. Cleveland's good. Greedy Williams. Cleveland's good, man. Cleveland's got a squad. It's crazy how quick that stuff switches in the NFL. But the last game, we got to go with the most intriguing storyline, it seems like, in football. Bill Belichick giving low fives to Mac Jones, the Jimmy Butler in my mind. So I'm reading this tweet from the beat reporter. It said Mac Jones took so much work in the practice that Cam was out on Wednesday that after practice he was on one knee, bent over, sweat was pouring from his hair. I'm just telling you. And all I can think of is the Jimmy Butler. The picture where after the game he's just exhausted. Michael Jordan being carried off by Pippen. And Belichick comes down there and gives him a little low five. Just kind of gives him a little tug down there and says, "Good job, kid. Attaboy." And then, hey, man, this is what, for whatever reason, this has become this huge storyline. Who's going to start week 1?
Yeah.
I still think it's Cam. I still think Cam Newton is going to start, but I think the leash is like, kid on a leash. Have you ever seen like parents that put their kids? Some of y'all watching probably don't put your kid on a leash, man. At one point, dogs. So I used to like see that, and I was like, damn, they got this kid like legit. You just a choker on his neck, and they're in the airport. The whole vest, like kid on a leash, right? I used to see that, and I was like, dude, who would ever do that to a kid? Then I had kids, and mine just are buck-ass wild, and I'm like, yo, we need to get a leash for him. But Cam Newton's leash is probably like kid on a leash levels of short. Like, I can just see a world in which he goes out there and he throws for like 82 yards, and then the next week they're like, all right, you're done. Like, let's get Mac Jones in the game. But it's going to be interesting to see who lights up New York. I have a feeling that both of them are going to play, and both of them are going to play well, and then it's just going to be, we're going to have to hear about this ad nauseum for 2 weeks until the opening day when Cam Newton does, in fact, start the season. But it's a matter of if, not when, Mac Jones takes over. But we want to see how the positive practice reports translate to the game. The New York side, I did see that Saquon Barkley actually was practicing live the other day. I see no reason why they would play him. Kenny Golladay, what a brutal. I know Giants fans are probably like, yo, why did we not draft Devontae Smith? Why did we?
Straight up.
I know they're probably just sick right now because Golladay hurt again. Ever since he took that picture with the girl's ass on him dancing, like he just hasn't been the same. His hamstrings are messed up. That's what dancing will do to you. They will wear your hamstrings out. I have nothing for the Giants. I think Daniel Jones.
Nothing to report, man. It's dumpster.
Yeah. I have nothing. I have nothing. So,
bad.
A couple of these preseason games will be good. A couple of them will be terrible. But as always, we will have you covered. We are done with so we've done the NFC East, the NFC South, the NFC West. We got to do the NFC.
Might as well go north, right?
We got to go north. We got to do that next week. We might just knock that out in a day. Like, I just don't want to spend a ton of time talking about the Vikings
Packers
and the
everyone
Lions.
else.
Packers, Justin Fields, DeAndre Swift's groin area, and we can move on to the AFC and wrap this up before we get to the NFL season. We've got college football this weekend, week 0 of college football. Make sure you get tapped into Bets TV. Make sure you tapped into me at RayGQ. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast at. Thank you all for joining us and waking up with us for yet another week. We are excited to get this show back on the road on Monday, so y'all have a great weekend. Be safe. Be blessed. We out, man. See y'all next week. Peace.